So as we draw to the conclusion of this series, one thing that has come up time and time again as I speak about these diversity heroes is that it is the gatekeepers, the people at heads of studio level who are deciding what films are made, what films aren't made. This is where we need to diversify if we are to see better representation in film and TV. And so these last two videos are going to reflect that. I'm going to be talking about two people who are doing this at a head of studio level. The first being Kevin Feige. And here's the thing, we can diversify head of studio, or the people that are already there in that position can see the opportunity they have to reach global, larger audiences, which Kevin Feige noticed right from the beginning of the MCU, all the way back in phase 1, though something stopped him to the point where Feige was willing to walk. And where I say willing to walk, I don't mean just have a little stroll around the Marvel parking lot, I mean literally walk away from Marvel altogether. And that's something we're going to be exploring in this video. So let's get into it.
If you're in a position of power and you're the one doing the hiring, we have learned on our last number of movies that the more diverse the group of people around the table, the better the movie, and the better the ideas, and the better it's going to look.
Welcome to video 9 out of 10 in this series on Hakuna MaChatter, in which I am looking at some of my favourite people within the film and TV industry who are out there trying to better diversity and representation. The idea was to bring a group of remarkable people together. That is something that the character Nick Fury says right towards the beginning of the MCU. And I think that we cannot dispute the fact that the MCU would not be in the place that it is without Kevin Feige. However, right back at the beginning, everything could have changed. Feige was willing to walk away from it all because right at the beginning he wanted more diversity, better representation, a wider pool of storytelling from the beginning, though he was blocked by the then head of the studio, Ike Perlmutter. Now, if you guys know Ike Perlmutter, if you have heard this story before, if you've read about this guy, he's a lovely piece of work, isn't he? The more I read about him, the more he endeared himself to me. And no, he did not. It's understandable as to why there was not that much diversity within the MCU at the beginning. You know, he came out with strings and strings of controversial comments. One of them, which was quite tame in consideration, was that a female superhero film, for example, would not sell, which I think is kind of incredible considering you look at Wonder Woman, you look at Captain Marvel, you look at the want for the Black Widow film, and actually, interestingly enough, we're talking about phase 1 and that there were no female-led superhero films, and I made a video as to why Black Widow should have been in phase 1. But yeah, as I say, with confidence, MC would not be where it is today, and Kevin Feige, when he was blocked by Perlmutter, he was literally willing to walk. He was coming into the set of some of those first films saying, look, if I'm not here tomorrow, there's a high chance that ain't gonna happen. There's a big reason for why I'm gone. I ain't here no more. And I love that. I love that not only was he trying to champion diversity representation in the now biggest film franchise of all time, he was willing to walk if that wasn't going to happen. He didn't want to be a part of something that didn't have that kind of vision.
And that movie couldn't possibly have looked any better with anybody else. And it was because I think we were open to listening and believing in Ryan, but giving people an opportunity. And now, you know, we're desperate to work with them all on all of our films going forward.
But now as we move into phase 4 of the MCU, we can see that diversity finally coming into full fruition. You know, we have the likes of the Black Widow film finally arriving to the MCU. We have Shang-Chi, the Eternals is set to be diverse. We've got Falcon and the Winter Soldier, obviously predominantly led by Falcon. We have WandaVision, where we have Wanda as one of the leads. She's also coming into Doctor Strange 2 as well. We've got She-Hulk, we've got Kate Bishop coming in at some point as well. Like, there is a real drive to up the different stories that we are telling within the MCU, and I think it's a really exciting time because something that Feige has always recognized is that they have a massive global audience and they want to tap into those markets. Again, at the end of the day, it's a business, so why not bring that to people that are watching these films? China, we know, is a massive market, so let's get a freaking East Asian superhero in there, and Shang-Chi is going to unlock that door. You know, the business side of things is something that I spoke a lot about in my Taraji P. Henson video as well, so if you've not seen that, check that out. And I kind of get when people go, they're just doing it for money. Well, yeah, as I say, it's a business, but if you can bring something to people as you're doing it, the only way they're going to make that money is if they bring something to that market. You know, as they did did with Black Panther. You know, that film grossed over $1 billion worldwide because they tapped into something. They sat back. Kevin Feige went, right, if I'm gonna make Black Panther, I'm gonna have black screenplay writers, I'm gonna have black directors, I'm gonna hire in the people that are gonna authentically tell that story. And that's what's really important. And I think that is why I'm really excited for Phase 4 of the MCU, because I know that if they're going to tell the stories, they're going to tell them properly. And by properly for me doesn't mean that it's necessarily completely comic book accurate. We are working in a different medium now. We've moved on. Those comics being made, you know, decades and decades ago. Well, we're in a different world now. This world has completely changed. So the stories have to adapt and change with it. And I'm sure all the comic book fans out there would love to see what they've been reading for decades up on the big screen. I get that. But that ain't the world no more. And so we are telling stories differently. And I think, you know, just kind of get on board, like learn from it. And Kevin Feige is going to help you do that.
You know, we find ourselves with these universal characters, these iconic characters that have been in comics for 50 years or more. But the world influences us as we tell these stories. And Wakanda in particular was always about sort of the negativity that comes from isolationism. This is a mysterious African country that has this amazing technology. And well, if that existed, what else? Why have they allowed what was going on in Africa to go on over the past 200 years? And that was one of the questions Ryan dealt with, and that's why that movie has a very globalist message, not unlike 22 July.
So yeah, Feige was only really possibly able to do this once he was made the head of studio, and that change happened once Disney took over Marvel Studios, and Ike Perlmutter was no longer involved in the creation of the films. He still heads Marvel Entertainment as a whole, but Kevin Feige, in terms of the films, has to report only directly to Disney and not Perlmutter. And that, for me, saved the MCU. And then that links back to what I'm saying about it needing to be the heads of studios that make these decisions, putting people in that place that are going to diversify their storytelling and give better representation to other demographics, because the MCU suffered at the beginning in sticking to one demographic. Granted, I love those three main superheroes, Iron Man, Captain America, Thor. You know, after a while, I kind of got bored of Iron Man. I needed something new, and so when we got all these fresh faces coming in, even Doctor Strange and Spider-Man, I was like, yeah, okay, this is good, we're going somewhere, we're moving away, which is great. And actually, you know what, I'm improvising a little bit here now, because that tells me something interesting as well. You know, I found connection with the likes of Captain America and Thor, and that's a really important thing, isn't it? That, you know, really representation and connecting to characters doesn't necessarily mean they have to have the same skin color as you. And I think that is also something that people forget when stories are being diversified more. That, oh, because, you know, it's Black Panther, it's only made for black people, I'm not going to find anything in that. Well, no, you can. I've got so many white friends who absolutely adore Black Panther. I think actually some of them like it more than I do, which is maybe you're thinking, what? That can't be possible. But yeah, no, it is, because we find representation in whatever. Like, my favorite superhero has always been Spider-Man, because, well, I guess because he's a kid like I was, you know? Do you know what I mean? Like, you find that connection somewhere. So here's the thing. Just because the MCU is diversifying and you're thinking, oh, they're just pandering to that demographic now, they don't care about me anymore. No. If we have been able to find representation in your superheroes, then you can find it in ours. It's not a yours and it's not an ours, it's an all of ours. It's everyone. If you don't get what I'm trying to say by now, then I can't find any other words in which to say it. So I'm so thankful for Kevin Feige and what he is doing over at Marvel. And it's not just on camera he's doing it. He works tirelessly to make sure that everyone, crews on sets, people working in the offices at Marvel Studios, that diversity is happening there, that there are more voices lending in, that more lived experience are sharing. And as he says, it leads to better stories, more exciting stories, and what is the full quote? More surprising stories. Captain Marvel and Black Panther surprised the fuck out of me with how amazing they were, because he lent voices to other people. I say lent voices. He allowed other voices to come out and speak and tell their stories.
You know, Black Panther's not real. He's not a real person. But
what?
He represents real hopes and real dreams and real representation. And so there's a certain amount of pressure that came with that, delivering on what people have been dreaming about for years, whether they read the comic book or not. Because a lot of people said, wait a minute, this is a hero that looks like me. And the importance of that really can't be understated.
So usually at this point of the video, I say, hey, let's recommend you something to watch. And really, apart from Black Panther, Captain Marvel, a little bit Ant-Man and the Wasp. So I say just kind of look forward to phase 4 of the MCU, because I think that's where you're really going to see Kevin Feige's work, where he really is going to go full force into what it is he wanted to achieve with the MCU. That is where the money's at, baby. So they say. That is where the money is at. Next video, final video of this series, we're going to be continuing on this trend of talking about the heads of studios, talking about how these people are greenlighting projects, who are setting a trend within their companies to diversify and bring it in more and different varying voices into the creation and running of their studios. We are walking across the Disney parking lot over to Lucasfilm, and I'm going to be chatting Kathleen Kennedy. She is one of my favorites. So if you want to see that video, make sure you subscribe, turn on that bell notification so you know when that video has dropped. And are you excited for phase 4 of the MCU? Let me know in the comment section down below. Until next time, Hakuna MaChatter.